We're going to be talking about the fire class. The fire class is something you've probably seen in the video. When you watch the spaceship in the completed project fly, when I press like the up key to apply a thrust, you see some like fire come out the back end. Like this is not going to be the final product, but it's like a bit of a start. And that's what we're going to try to create right now. We'll see if we can make it look a little bit better. But that's just a bunch of objects that's being created. They're all rectangles, so they look a little bit goofy. And I can definitely improve it with Rect Mode Center and a couple other fun things. So let's do it. So I've actually deleted it off of my project here. And we'll go make it together. So I'm going to make a new tab to create this new class. I'm going to call it the Fire tab. I'm going to make class Fire, which will extend game object. Just like pretty much everything that we're doing in this project so far. And this is a great example because you're going to be making the particle class. So you'll probably have similar kind of structure and go about it in a similar way. Anytime you make a new class in this project, you're probably going to extend game object. So that means I don't have to program in a location and a velocity. Those things already exist inside of game object. And anything that extends game object gets all these variables. So it's going to get lives, it's going to get size, it's going to get location, it's going to get velocity. I've changed mine to just LOC and VEL, unlike previous videos, so please account for that in your own project. You'll have to type in whatever you're using. So I don't have to do any of those things. I am going to make a new variable, though. I want them to kind of go transparent, so I need to keep track of their transparency. So I'm going to make an int called T for transparency. And that will add on top of all those other great variables that I get from game object. I'll also have, just for fire objects, an int that'll keep track of transparency. So these are my new instance variables. I'll make a comment to say this is all about transparency. I want them to fade away. Okay, next I'm going to make the constructor. And this is something I hope people are starting to get the hang of because you've seen asteroids, you've seen spaceship, you've seen all these different things with their constructor. So of course the constructor's name must match the class's name. So you would just type in fire. And I don't know if you necessarily need to have parameters for this one. We'll see if we need them or not. I'll start with no parameters. And of course we're going to need a void act and a void show. I forget what order we've been putting them in. I'll put show first and then void act. And we'll come later on to use those. Because game object has an act and show, anything that extends it is overwriting them. There's like whenever we say, hey, go act and show, which is inside of the draw function, or maybe it's in your game function at this point, depending on where you are in the project. Every time we're saying, like act and show, we're telling this a general object, hey, you act and you show. Java knows which act and which show to call based on what kind of object this is. So if this is a bullet or an asteroid or a fire, it'll know to use whichever one's been overridden. So if I override it here, when it gets a fire's turn to show, it'll call this function instead of the game object function. So that's an important thing to know about. So let's see what we got to initialize all these variables. So let's set lives equal to 1. If we don't set lives equal to 1, the fire will die right away. It'll just, first frame out, it'll just be gone. Size, you can kind of play around with the size, what you think is an appropriate effect. Eventually, I think making it random might be nice to give different fire, different sizes to make a variety instead of that single line that we have going on. But for now, we'll just put in 10. And let's see, we need a location. Oh, I'll put the T first. I'm going to set T to 255. Which means it's solid. When we go to use it in a fill function, then 255 in the transparency slot for the argument is going to mean not transparent at all. So I think that's a good place to start it. And then let's see, we need a location. And the location is just going to come out of the spaceship. Right now, you might notice it kind of came out of the spaceship's center, which doesn't feel right. It should come out of the engines. So maybe by the end of this lesson, we'll take a look at how we can push it back a bit. But the main thing is just to get it to come out of the spaceship in the first place. So we can say this thing's location equals new p vector, and we can just send it the ship's location.x and location.y. So my ship right now is called my ship. I'm not sure what your ship is called. It might be my ship, it might be ship, depending on what you're doing. It might be called something entirely differently. So if it says it doesn't know what my ship is, just look and see what you actually called your ship. This is a good way to do it. There is another way to do this, by the way. I think I accidentally showed you before. I think this way kind of looks like the way we've been doing things generally. But if you feel it's a little bit long or strange, you can also do it this way. I'll just comment this out and just show you another way. You don't have to type it in if you want. You can make a copy of the spaceship's location vector. So you can say location equals myship.location.copy. So that's a little bit shorter, and it basically just copies the x and y values to my new location for my fire. So if you like that better, then that's a good way to do it. But you can also do it this way as we've been doing things. Is there any preference out there of which way you want to do it? No, doesn't matter? Yeah, I'll let you each person just decide on their own how they want to do it. You got to do it one way or the other though. So also we need it to move. We want it to be like shooting out the back end of the spaceship. So that means it needs to go in the opposite direction that the spaceship is facing. Not where the spaceship is spacing, which is what I tried to say there, but I'll try to recover from that. So the direction of the spaceship, we know the spaceship keeps track of its direction. I'm calling mine DIR right now because I was tired of typing direction over and over again. I just felt painful, so I'm going to use DIR. But whatever the name of your spaceship's direction is, I'll do a similar thing for the velocity. I'll say the velocity equals myship.direction.copy. And again, you could also use the new p vector way of doing that for your velocity, where you get myship.direction.x, myship.direction.y. You could do a similar thing as we did before. But I'm going to use the copy because, gosh golly, they gave us a copy. I figure we might as well use it to make our code look a little bit nice. So there's a problem here, though. Our velocity is going to be exactly the same as the direction of the spaceship. That's pointing out the front of the spaceship, right? We want the fire to go the other way. So how do we get it to go the other way? We have to rotate it, right? How many degrees would we rotate it? 180. And unfortunately, we're using radians here. So I can say vel.rotate. I can say, radians 180. It turns out 180 degrees in radians is pi. So I can just rotate by pi. And it knows what capital P, capital I is. I'll just make a note of 180 degrees. If you don't like that, if you're like, oh, I really don't want to change things, you can go radians 180. You can do it like that as well. So whatever you feel comfortable with. But we just want to go in the exact opposite direction, right? Not out the front. We want to go out the back. So it's the opposite of that. So I'll leave it as pi here because I think that looks reasonable. And of course, the direction is a pretty small number. We can leave it just to see what that looks like, but we might want to change the speed at which it shoots out. So if you wanted to do that, you can say vel.setMag, which is going to be how long is the line that it moves, or how many pixels per frame does it move. So you could set it to 5, for example, and then it would move 5 pixels in whatever the direction it's supposed to go. But you can also set it to 10. You can even set it to a random number. I'll leave you to decide what a good number is. I'll put mine as 5 for now, and I'll just kind of adjust it as we go. Okay, so there we go. We got ourselves, I think, everything we need from game object. Let me just double check. We got the lives, the size, the location, and velocity. Great. We also have a new T thing for transparency. We did that. So I think we can say our constructor is complete. Any questions on the constructor, especially the vector stuff? No? All good? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. So that's me making the fire sort of point in the right direction and have the right speed. What does it do? Well, you can kind of design it however you want. You can make it circles, you can make it squares, you can make it different kind of colors. So you can decide how it looks. I'm just going to do a real basic square for now. So I'm going to say something like square, square, there we go, my T got messed up. It's going to be at location.x, location.y, and it's going to be size, big. So there's our square I'm going to fill it with red, 25500, and I'm going to put the T on the end. So a fourth parameter in a fill function is the transparency level. So at 255 it'll be solid, but we'll make it fade away over time. I also want to just set the stroke, maybe I'll just say no stroke. Now, I know my squares aren't in centered mode. I probably would like to center them, but maybe I'll leave that for later. The act function is pretty nice. The act function is basically just going to be, hey, do the thing that game objects do. Right? We already programmed that in game objects. We know that game objects move, and we know that they wrap around. So I just want that to happen. So I just say super.act. So do what game objects do is what that says. It's the movement code. And then I want it to fade away into oblivion as it sort of like goes cold and escapes into space. So I'll just do t equals t minus some number. I'll just do 5 for now. I don't know. Not sure how fast I want it to go. And then I'll say, hey, if t is like less than or equal to 0, then I'm just going to set lives to 0. And that'll mean it gets removed from the game. So it's going to move. It's going to get more and more transparent each frame. And then it's going to die and go away. So there's my class. Any questions on the show or act function? Things are okay? Great. Okay, so there I am, and now if I run it, nothing happens, just to be clear. There's no fire yet. It's because I have a blueprint. You know, I have like a cookie cutter that's ready to cut out fire objects, but I haven't actually done any creating of these objects yet. So no fire yet. So let's go do that. When do I want fire to come out? When I hit the up key, when I'm like, go, power on, go, thrust, go. So that's over in the spaceship class. And it's right here in the keyboard movement. And it pains me to mess up all this formatting. Look at like I spaced it out so nicely, and it's also nice. Oh, I have to change it now. And the reason is because I want more than just one line of code to happen when I press the up key. So I need to use braces now. If you're not expecting any more than one line of code to happen with an if statement, the braces you can leave off. But now I want to not only add the velocity, but I want to make some fire objects. So I'm going to add those braces in. And this is a potentially dangerous time for people to mess up the braces. You know how it goes. Braces are dangerous things in processing. Beautiful, but dangerous. So I'm going to put my open brace here. And I'll press enter. And I'll put my closed brace there. And I'll just press enter and move that down. So now all the code that has to do with the up key getting pressed can live inside the block of code between the braces there. So let's go ahead and add some fire objects. How do you add fire? It's just like adding bullets or just like adding asteroids. You can say the name of your list, my objects in my case, dot add, and then new fire, semicolon. That adds one fire. I think I'll just add one fire for now and we'll see how that goes. But we can add more than one if we want. You can copy and paste that line or put that in a loop and make all sorts of fire. So I've just added that line of code to my keyboard movement stuff, which required me to add in those braces, messing up my lovely formatting, but that's okay because formatting is not as important as functionality. But it's important, don't get me wrong. Okay, so let's see if the fire comes out now. Or did I do something bad? Or, that's not really bad, just a mistake. All right, here we go, ready? I feel like there should be some dramatic music playing, like Thus Spake Zarathustra or something. Here we go, fire, boo! All right, we got some fire coming out. It was pretty fast though. Like if I shoot some stuff. There we go. Oh, it's coming out. It looks good. It's definitely could be improved a few ways. You know what this reminds me of? I'm getting some super strong nostalgia vibes right now from the movie WALL-E. You guys remember WALL-E? And he has that nice scene where he's dancing with Eve out there in space with the fire extinguisher. Oh man, that movie. I got to admit, I've watched WALL-E 32 times. 32. I'm not ashamed of it. I have little children. They like Wally. So, anyways, let's make this fire look a little more like Wally's like fire extinguisher. Whoa. Oh, hi, Grayson. So anyways, I'm going to get this to like not be such a long cone. What are some things we can change to make that like not go so much? Well, let's go to the fire class. This is me kind of playing around with it. So one thing I can do is, actually before I do anything, I think one thing really good to do is to set the Rect mode to center. This might mess up some of your other code, so just, you don't have to do this. But if I go to my setup and I say something like Rect mode center, then the XY coordinate will be in the center of the square, so they'll line up a little nicer. So it'll literally come out of the center there. That looks a little bit more logical. Still coming out of the middle of our spaceship, but it's not too bad. Okay. All right, it's starting to look better. Still a little bit long. So why is it so long? There's a couple of possibilities. One possibility is that its velocity is very strong. So we could change its velocity to not be so powerful. Another possibility is we aren't killing it fast enough. So we could increase how quickly we reduce its transparency so it dies a little bit quicker. So I don't know what the secret recipe for that is, but maybe we'll sort of adjust one or the other. Maybe I'll make the 5 into a 3 and try that out. Maybe I'll try some other things and see how that goes. Let's just do that for now. I'll set velocity to 3. That's still pretty long. Maybe I should kill it a little bit faster. So maybe we'll decrease this by 10 instead of 5. And we'll see if that looks any better. And it's definitely getting shorter. Oh, that's pretty good. That's looking pretty good. And now I'd like to make it so that maybe we can give it a bit of a cone spread. Instead of it just being a thin line, maybe we can spread it out a little bit. So in my constructor, instead of me rotating exactly 180 degrees, maybe I could give it a bit of randomness to it. So it's 180 degrees plus or minus. Oh, sorry, grade 12s. We'll see you tomorrow, grade 12s. And this will get uploaded to YouTube, so you can watch it, the remaining of it, later today. I'll make sure it gets uploaded today. All right, so I want to give it that little spread, so that it comes out as a cone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add pi plus a random number. Random number between, I don't know, maybe negative 0.5 and positive 0.5. We'll see what that looks like. We can adjust it. So it's not going to just be pi. It'll be pi plus or minus some amount. So let's run that and see what we get. This will probably be a little bit too big. Oh, that looks pretty good, hey? Hey, that's starting to look a little bit more like fire. Actually, I'll get it on screen here. Oh, I'm on the edge so much. That's starting to look a little more like fire. And we got that nice sort of transparency as it flies away. Yeah, that's starting to look good. All right. And we can do even more by giving it even a little bit more randomness. So I would suggest changing things up a bit, maybe don't just start the transparency at 255. Maybe make some of them be a little bit brighter than others and darker than others. So maybe we can make this a random integer between, say, 200 and 255. So some of them start smaller. Start darker. And then maybe we could also, let's see, change the sizes too. Maybe the size doesn't have to be exactly 10. Maybe we can make it a random integer between, I don't know, 5 and 12. So we can shake it up a bit and give it some more texture. So now we can see there's a more kind of variety in the thing that's coming out of it. It's looking a little bit weak now. It's not quite as strong as it was before because some of them are darker. So we can either be happy with that and don't worry about it, or we can just add more particles. So another way to increase or change the effect is by, in Spaceship, don't just add one particle every frame. Add 3. Or you could make a loop to add a whole bunch. This might get out of hand, so I don't know what that's going to look like, but yeah, so now the cloud's looking a little more dense. And we still got that variety that's kind of going there. So we're getting there. We're getting to a good place for this fire. And the last thing we should probably solve is, how can we get it to come out the back of the ship instead of the center of the ship? That's a big one to solve as well. So the way to make that happen, I'll get back on screen, is that we don't want its location to be exactly the spaceship's location. We want to move it back along the spaceship's direction vector. We just want to move it back. I don't know how much. I'd have to check the numbers to see exactly how long it is. But we want to just kind of push it back a few pixels so it starts behind. But that's going to depend on its direction, right? Like if I go this way, then it's got to start back lower down this way. If I'm facing this way, it's got to be back this way. Luckily, we know the direction, so we can just move along that direction and add it to our location. So what I'm going to do is in the fire, I am going to, instead of just copying it, I'm going to copy it, but I'm going to add a little gap vector. I'm going to make a new vector that's like a gap that pushes it along the direction, and then add it to the location to kind of move it ahead. So what I'll do is I'll make a new p vector. I think I'll just make a copy of the direction. So just like I have here, this copied this direction. Or could I just do it with velocity? No, I think I'll do it with direction. So I'm going to make a new p vector. I probably don't have to declare it here, but we've been declaring things here, so I'll do it. I'll just call this nudge. I'm going to nudge the starting location of the fire, just a little bit in the direction, of the opposite direction the spaceship's facing. And so nudge is going to be a copy of the spaceship's direction vector. Why the direction vector? Because that's the direction we're facing, so it's pretty close to what we want. I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees. So that's nudge.rotate pi. And then I'm going to say location.add nudge. So it's going to add just a little bit on to the fire's starting location. Let's see if it works. If it doesn't quite work, we can adjust it. It might not be long enough, because I know that it's not very big. Our direction vector is pretty tiny, actually. If we look at it, what is the direction vector? Well, mine's like 0.2 long. It's probably not going to be long enough. Let's see if we have any effect. Doesn't look like it, right? Didn't really do much. So let's go back and make it a little longer. So in fire, after I rotate it, I'll set nudges. What's the word I'm looking for? Magnitude. Set magnitude. If we wanted to move it back, say, 10 pixels, we could say set mag 10. And we'll push it back 10 pixels. I'm not sure how many it needs to go. Is it 10? Is it 20? But you can see now it's coming out the bottom of the spaceship instead of the center. And if I rotate to the side, it'll come out from the bottom of the spaceship in that direction. So basically it's a way of kind of just moving it 10 pixels in whatever opposite direction the spaceship is facing. This will also help you fire your bullets from the tip of your spaceship instead of from the center of your spaceship. And if you wanted to have a spaceship that had, say, 2 engines, you could do a similar thing where you make fire come out of both engines, but you could have 2 nudges, I guess. You could have like a left fire and a right fire and nudge it in different ways to kind of create that spacing. So again, this nudge vector, the whole point was just to push the location in the right direction so it comes out the back end. I think we could probably do even better, like maybe 12 or something. You know, you can keep on playing with this and change it up. You could also change the colors as well, have some yellow ones, have some orange ones, have some red ones. Or maybe it's like an outer space engine, so that's like purple and blue. I don't know. It doesn't have to be red for space. Who knows what's happening in outer space, future technology. So you can just play around with it until you get the desired one. Oh, 15 worked really well for me. I really like 15. It's just coming straight out of the back end of the spaceship. It's kind of like a carrot right now if that was green and orange. Oh, man. Carrot simulator. Anyways, I hope that makes sense. So what should you take away from this? Well, we made a new class. So seeing how we make a new class that extends GameObject, I think is a great thing to see. You can never see it too many times because you're going to be making your own new classes like Particle. And particle is going to be like fire. They're going to fade away, but their positioning and their behavior is going to be a little bit different. So you probably won't have to do as much nudging and stuff, but how the particles explode outwards from an object, I think will be you'll be able to take lessons from how we've set up our fire to work. Okay, folks? Any questions about how this works? No? Okay, thanks so much. I'll close the video. Bye, everybody watching at home. Uh-oh.